Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. And we're starting here with just a quick reminder that today there is a state of play that is focused on 007 First Light. We're getting a deep dive. We're going to be getting over 30 minutes of new gameplay. And so, yeah, again, that's happening today at 11 a.m. PT, 2 p.m. ET, and 8 p.m. CEST. So there you go. Let me know if it's something you're going to be tuning into and if you're excited to see 007. But moving on from that, we have Sony announcing a new edition of the Astrobot limited edition Dualsense. They posted this on their Twitter. Astrobot returns with a new delightful twist. The limited edition Astrobot Joyful Dualsense launches on October 30th. Pre-orders start September 12th at 10 a.m. local time over at PlayStation Direct and participating retailers. And so, yeah, this is something that Sony did let us know they were going to be doing at the last state of play. And if you're wondering what the difference between this Astrobot DualSense is and the original one they released, it's simply just the eyes in the, middle of the controller on the touchpad. That's pretty much it. So it's there for people who want a second Astrobot controller and, those who want to collect every DualSense that Sony puts out, or, those who wanted the original Astrobot DualSense but missed out on it. Now they have another opportunity to get a different version here. But something else that Sony announced is a new PlayStation Link PC driver for Windows. They say here also on Twitter, take full control of your audio experience on PC with Pulse Elite and Explore. Introducing a PlayStation Link PC driver for Windows, rolling out gradually starting, yesterday. And so, yeah, this is something that's been available on the PlayStation 5 for some time now, and it's very useful if you're using either of these accessories, but now they will be available on Windows as well. But we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is talking about Helldivers 2 and how it's performing on Xbox. Being reported by Push Square, they say, as Forza Horizon 5 sales on PS5 justify Microsoft's multi-platform efforts, Sony's decision to put Helldivers 2 on Xbox Series X and S is looking to be a worthwhile success. Just 1 week after release, the port is considered the top paid game on the platform and is in first place on the bestseller list. Spotted by Eurogamer, you can navigate to these kinds of rankings on the Xbox Store and see what's been selling best, though there obviously aren't any hard numbers attached to them. The base version of Helldivers 2 is in the top spot, while the more expensive Super Citizen Edition is in the fourth best-selling spot on Xbox currently. And so it says here that only the NBA 2K26 Superstar Edition and Minecraft on PC are proving to be more popular than the Super Citizen Edition, but nothing is selling better than the standard version. While we don't have official sales numbers for the Xbox Series X and S versions yet, estimates from Alinea Analytics suggest that the port has sold more than 600,000 copies as of August 28th. What's becoming increasingly clear is there is a demand for select PlayStation titles on Xbox. Given the fanbase's roots in multiplayer, there's potential for more online-focused efforts from Sony to launch on Xbox consoles alongside PS5. Marathon from Bungie was announced for Xbox on day one, so we have to wonder about upcoming titles like Fair Games. Now, the one that I think about in particular is knowing there is a Horizon live service multiplayer game in development. Would Sony release that on Xbox? I think they would. But there you go. The whole idea behind Helldivers going to Xbox is to increase the player count, get more sales, and, just generate more growth for Sony's top live service game. And it seems as though it's doing that. So now it's just about kind of waiting and watching and seeing what Sony decides to do next going forward. But moving on to the next topic, we're talking about Resident Evil 9 and another rumor that I honestly think is kind of shocking. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. It says, much like the most recent entries in the series, Resident Evil Requiem is not going to leave the last generation of consoles behind, nor will it skip the Switch 2. Speaking on X, known Capcom leaker Dusk Golem commented on the 9th entry in the popular series launching early next year, saying that it should also release on PS4 and Nintendo Switch 2, corroborating other rumors circulating online. As for the timing, it's not yet known if these two unannounced versions of the game will launch at the same time as on PS5, Xbox, and PC, but how they're going to compare, well, the insider speculates it will be a different version of the game with different technology behind it. Commenting further on Resident Evil Requiem, Dusk Golem touched upon some of the technical aspects of the game, saying that they expect the game will be optimized and polished in the vein of the Resident Evil 4 remake. The developers of Requiem are likely being helped by the team behind previous entries in the series, who have a lot of PC experience, and are taking the time to focus on optimization and polish. Not featuring an open world setting like Monster Hunter Wilds is also going to ensure that the RE engine will handle the experience well. So yeah, this is shocking to me, the idea that we're going to see a game that's coming out in 2026, Resident Evil Requiem. There's going to be a last-gen version, maybe not an Xbox One version, but at the very least a PS4 version. You can kind of understand that, but what's interesting about this leak is how Dusk Golem is saying that it's actually going to be a completely different version of the game. So it's clear that Capcom is basically developing multiple versions of RE9. So, you know, I continue to reiterate that if you're wondering what the next generation is going to look like, this is a glimpse of what we can expect. It's going to be completely cross-gen for many, many years. You know, again, we're going into 2026 and we're getting multiple high-profile titles still releasing on PS4. But moving on from that, we are talking about a rumor, although I think it's going to be confirmed maybe by the time this video goes out or not too long after. In order to avoid even more price increases for the PS5, apparently the digital edition of the PS5 is getting some reduced SSD space. This is coming from Push Square. They say in order to combat even more PS5 console price increases in Europe, Sony is reportedly looking at reducing the storage space of the SSD. It says, according to Dialab's leaker Bill Bilkoon, the digital edition of the base PS5 will start to have 825 gigabytes of space as part of a new series, as opposed to the 1 terabyte of storage in the current model. The launch PS5 models back in 2020 also came with 825 gigabytes of space as the standard, but this was eventually increased to 1 terabyte when the slim version came out. The leaker claims that in the case of the base PS5's digital edition in Europe specifically, it's getting reduced storage to avoid having to raise the price of the system once again. The console already had 2 price increases since release. This new model will reportedly be available from September 13th. So, yeah, man, it's just, you know, let's face it, it's just getting worse out here when it comes to the price increases and, you know, the cost of things, and Sony wanting to try to, you know, avoid increasing the price of the PS5 further. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, again, like, if you're somebody who was here at the launch of the PS5, you know, you kind of settled with 825 gigabytes. And I think most people who care about storage already buy SSDs and extra storage, but it sucks, right? Like, there's just no way around it. It sucks to see, like, oh, you know, we're going from 825 to 1 terabyte, and you know what, actually, guys, we're gonna have to go back to 825 to avoid a price increase. So, you know, I think if people had to choose, maybe this is what they would prefer over another price increase. I think that would be safe to say. But yeah, man, it's looking spooky out here for consoles, honestly. But moving on to the final topic here, it actually has to do with an Xbox game that was recently canceled and how it was nearly saved by a third-party publisher. It says here, with the trajectory Microsoft's on, there's a good chance its canceled Perfect Dark game would have come to PS5, but now word has emerged that the project was almost saved by a third-party publisher, which would have effectively guaranteed a PlayStation release. The ever-reliable Jason Schreier reports on Bloomberg that Take-Two was in talks to rescue the reboot before disputes over IP ownership caused the conversations to collapse. For those who have followed this project, you'll know that prior to its cancellation, Tomb Raider maker Crystal Dynamics was parachuted in to assist Shuttered Studio The Initiative with its development. Crystal Dynamics is owned by Embracer, who took the title to Take-Two in an attempt to salvage it, following a wave of devastating Xbox layoffs earlier this year. The publisher was apparently willing to fund the rest of the project and release it, but the deal collapsed due to a dispute with IP owner Microsoft over who would retain the long-term rights to the Perfect Dark property. The outcome is that the initiative has been closed, Crystal Dynamics has gone through a round of layoffs, and Perfect Dark has been locked away in Microsoft's abandoned IP vault. but not entirely sure why the company insisted on owning the series when it's unlikely to ever do anything with it again. But that's its prerogative, we suppose. So yeah, this is, I would say, an interesting update and follow-up to Perfect Dark. I know that a lot of people were looking forward to this game, and yes, it seemed very likely this was going to launch on PS5. Really interesting that it was nearly saved by Take-Two. It would have been, I think, you know, a good thing on Microsoft's part and on Take-Two Interactive's part to come out and be like, actually, we're able to save this game, but yeah, it seems like Microsoft was like, yeah, we want to own this IP. We don't really want to transfer it over. And, you know, the conversations collapsed. So the worst outcome ultimately is what happened. But I just thought it was an interesting piece of insight into what was going on behind the scenes there. So let me know your thoughts on that, guys. That's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.